Welcome to Learning from Leaders, the show where we dive into the minds of today's top thought leaders, coaches, authors, speakers, and entrepreneurs with your host, RJ Horner. Each week, we explore real conversations, powerful lessons, and actionable insights to help you grow, lead, and make a lasting impact. Whether you're building your business, your brand, or your influence, you'll find the inspiration and strategies you need right here. Let's dive in and start learning from leaders.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We've got a couple of people here on what is our monthly networking call. Looks like nobody from our community has joined us yet. I hope some people come along. I hope more of our podcast interview guests come along. But that's what we decided to do for our first session, was to have a live launch. Very excited because I've done about 10 interviews now for learning from leaders, and very excited for everybody who's contributed. There's some valuable information for our community out there. So I'm glad people were able to join us live and maybe tell us a little bit about what we put together for them and what their expertise is. So let me just get into a little bit first about Beacon Fellowship and what it is, how it's going to work in the future, and then we'll get into talking to our guests. So first of all, this is the Beacon Fellowship Live, which is our monthly networking session. It's a gathering of leaders, entrepreneurs, authors, coaches, people who are aspiring thought leaders committed to becoming better leaders while helping each other succeed. So unlike traditional events where people simply exchange business cards, Beacon Fellowship is live and designed around the philosophy that every member is both a student and a teacher. Everybody has to bring something to the table. Everybody has something to learn, and we all have something we can teach others. And that's really what we put together in this community. The Beacon Fellowship Academy of Leadership is the name. And along with that, I'm not the only person spearheading this organization, this community, this group. Along with me is Curtis Leong. Curtis, tell people a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What you bring to the table, and how long we've been together. That would be a great one.
All right, RJ. Well, I guess we'll start with how long. I said probably at least 5 or 6 years, I'd imagine. Maybe you can correct
Yeah,
me on that, but
good
it's
work.
probably about that long, I believe. We started with just us. We had an idea, and we developed it over the 5 years, I guess. We went through a lot of turbulence in the beginning, I'm sure. We found someone that was able to help us out. We did really good with that for a bit. But as all things go with online, you never know what you're going to get, right? So
Mhm.
currently we are working on Beacon Fellows. We're building a new website, which is awesome. We're doing that together. And we're trying to build the community up. RJ is doing some interviews with you guys, which is excellent. So we're trying to build up a leadership. So even if you're a beginner or an experienced person, you can always help out, which I think is awesome. Because I'm not the best leader, but I definitely want to be a better leader. I'm a parent. But even as a parent, you're part of the leadership, right? Leading our children and our
Mhm.
lives into a better place, right, RJ?
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, yep, yep.
Go
So
ahead.
on the
No, you
Beacon
continue, please.
Positivity, yeah, on Beacon Positivity, I wrote a book about being positive because back in 2000, I guess about 2014, I had my first child. It was very difficult birth. She was premature by 26 weeks. So that was we spent about 3 months in the hospital, and during that time, I figured a different way of thinking about this, right? So I started thinking positively. I started meditating. I started doing other things that helped me overcome a lot of the negativity that's having children that may or may not make it. But I kept on focusing that should make it, that would do well. So actually, it worked out very well. She's 12 years old now. And it worked out fine. She's a normal kid. She has a typical 12-year-old attitude, which is kind of funny, but also kind of like, oh my God, really? You got your thing like this? Like, oh, I know what you're thinking because I've been there. So it's kind of fun that way. And I'm really enjoying the parenting thing. And that's my other thing I do. I do a parenting podcast on Sundays. Right, RJ? And RJ joins me, which
Yep.
he has more experience in kids than I do. And we use that as a springboard to help us develop different podcasts, right?
Yeah. Yeah, this is all about the lessons learned, right? That's what learning from
Yep.
leaders is all about. And, I've certainly got some lessons learned the hard way when it comes to raising kids. Um,
Yep.
I wasn't in a great positive space. I often used to say, look, I'll be the toughest person you ever have to deal with my kids. So I didn't come from a positive, nurturing space. I came from more of a controlling environment. Not wholly controlling, but I mean, I felt that it was my job as a parent to raise my kids, to be respectful, to do what they're supposed to
Yep.
do. And I'm sure I could have been a lot more generous, a lot easier with them. But I love hosting that podcast with you every Sunday morning,
Awesome.
the Parent Support Circle. I think we do some great work and offer some great value to people here. So, and that's what it's all about, right? I'm the beacon of life and leadership because I talk from the lessons learned. I didn't always get it right. I'd like to believe I'm in a space where I get most of it right now, but I don't get it all right. I'm still learning. I'm still a work in progress, and I'm always willing to share that with people out there. So as far as our guests, this is going to be a launch, and I only got two out of 10 people who have interviewed who have joined us. I'm going to start with the farthest away because I know it's early in the morning where she is, and I'm just grateful that she has joined us at a time that's not exactly convenient. So, Suchita Patel, you and I had a conversation about you being a teacher, a leader, a mentor to your siblings, raising your own siblings. That was a great conversation. Maybe let people know who's Suchita Patel and some of the conversation we had in our interview.
Hello, everybody. This is Suchita here, Suchita Patel here, right from Dubai. Early morning. It is 3:30 a.m. and I'm right here. Well, we really had a very good conversation. Being in an academic for almost more than 25 years, and recently moved my career from teaching to real estate, and along with that I still do teaching. I don't leave that, and being a mentor and a coach to many students as well as a counselor, where I help many souls to walk on the path of self love and self help. Before you try and seek, to the extreme ends of your life and think that life is only a chaos, but chaos is something that makes the path of fulfillment and achievement in many ways. So I teach hope, I preach hope, and I walk the path of spirituality by surrendering to the supreme power and doing your best, putting your right foot forward and work towards your dream, but don't give up.
Mhm. And you talked about spiritual mentors and leading from from that space. We talked about, I think a lot of it was around personal values,
Yes,
who a person becomes, what their goal is to continue to grow, and then a lot of it was around energy and connecting the emotions, right?
absolutely. Absolutely.
So do you have anything else to add? I'm not going to keep you guys each very long. I want to get into going talking to you guys. The podcast is live, so I will give you guys a link once I'm done here. I will send you guys a link so that you can go out and share it with your audience as well, and I will begin promoting it out there. I believe, like I said, I've got 10 interviews. We are launching 5 right now. And then with more in the background, Curtis and I hopefully are going to on Sunday morning host another podcast just to summarize all the things we've learned from the 5 leaders who have been kind enough to be here for our launch. So excited about that. And then so next I have Scott Paradis. Scott, you came from I believe it was an engineering back. Oh no, you were the Army guy. Yes, the Army leader who kept growing and learned a lot of his leadership from that. So Scott, tell people about who you are, where you come from, and maybe some of that leadership experience that you can offer to people.
Sure, sure. Well, I appreciate it. And it's really great to be with you tonight, RJ and Curtis. So thanks for having me with you. I had originally grew up in New Hampshire in the United States, And I went to college and I joined the Army Reserve. But essentially, after my intent, once I graduated college, was to light the world on fire. I started entrepreneurial projects, that sort of thing. My wife was teaching school. We were going to have our first child, so that in line with your parenting and so forth. And we decided we wanted my wife to be able to stay home. So that meant I needed to get on the straight and narrow. And I applied to go on active duty with the Army. So I went on active duty with the Army, spent the next 25 years in a growth and learning and leadership role all over the world. It was a great experience. I ended up in Europe, in the Middle East, and on Capitol Hill as a congressional fellow, and ultimately as a national security fellow at Harvard. And all of that, it was understanding how people get along, how people understand themselves in the world and grow individually and professionally. When I finished my time with the Army, I retired. I decided I wanted to get into something that was impactful and made a contribution. So I decided to get involved in personal and professional development. I started to write books, put together online programs, teach workshops and seminars and that sort of thing. And that's where I still am today, is in that personal and professional development space. However, and much like you and I talked about, RJ, my focus really today is on what's really going on. And I frame it as what's really going on, apocalypse or evolution, which is to see how the world, what's happening in the world, what's all this chaos and turmoil, and try to figure out as best we can, kind of put meaning behind it all. And that was a good part of our conversation, was what's really going on and what does it mean for us personally and for us collectively. And that was, I think, the focus of our talk, which ultimately, hopefully will contribute to your audience.
Oh, I can't wait for people to hear it. I think it was a tremendously valuable conversation and probably very eye-opening, right? Because again, it all evolved even around, okay, what's really going on, but it's the personal responsibility behind it, right? What can you take away from this? What can you learn from this? And I think that's the entire point of this podcast. Like, every one of our guests have given different value. Yes, there's a lot of similarities because leadership is similar all over the world. We all learn relatively similar values and similar actions to take, but everybody has a unique perspective behind it, right? So I love that. And we took away, overcoming fears, setting intentions, taking personal responsibility for your life. And I love that conversation. I can't wait for people. I'm going to promote your book, of course, to get a hold of this and just take this topic in. So maybe tell people just a little bit more about what's really going on.
So the way I talk about it, all of us experience these storms. And I say there are 5 storms, and those 5 storms are converging. The first storm is what we see in environmental upheaval. If you've been paying attention, you've seen the earthquakes in South America, the volcanoes in the Pacific, the storms in the United States, the heat wave in Europe. All of these things are what I term environmental upheaval. But I see that as more a signal from the earth sending a signal to us. Hey, something's not right, so pay attention. That's the first storm. The second storm, I say, is economic stratification. We have the greatest divide in modern history between the haves and the have-nots. That divide is only growing worse. So it's a challenge that most of humanity faces. So we've got to recognize that that is what I call the second storm. Third storm is this political polarization. Unfortunately, we see it around the globe. The people get these perspectives and they set themselves against one another. And I say that is division by design, the powers that be in influencing the masses to fight amongst themselves so they don't recognize what really the challenges are. That's the third storm. The fourth storm is technological acceleration. Our technology is moving faster and faster. The current issue is artificial intelligence, but you lay that over robotics and biotechnology and all of those things that are moving faster and faster. It creates a storm for us to deal with. And the fifth storm is our personal adversity. All of us, just by the nature of living, we face loss, we face failure, we face uncertainty. So we have these personal storms in our lives. The big issue today, however, is these five storms are converging, and I say they are converging for a purpose. And that purpose is to get us to finally break the paradigm, which is that competitive, conflict, fear-based paradigm we've been living in for 12,000 years, and actually make an evolutionary leap to choose, connect, collaborate, and create together. So we have that potential to make a better choice.
I love that. And like I said, I can't wait for people to listen to your podcast, because we talk about all of this in a more deeper, intimate conversation between you and I. And there's so much there for people to unpack. And the fact that we have the personal responsibility in how we receive this, and then what we can do with it. I think, like you said, with this political storm, is that they're trying to keep us apart, right? They're trying to keep us from realizing that we can unite and change the world in a positive way. We can be better together. And I think that's the entire purpose of this podcast. So, Scott, I thank you for coming out, having your conversation. We do have it live, like I said. I'm going to turn it back to, because this kind of leads into something Suchita and I had talked about, was the challenges, dealing with different challenges and conflicting opinions, right? Suchita, tell us a little bit about that in our conversation, how we had that.
The opinion of every individual is different because we come from a different cultural background. So we've lived with different cultural background. We become judgmental, but rather than being judgmental, we should be more accommodative and acceptive.
Absolutely.
And acceptance is something which makes the world beautiful, more human, and the concept of humanity which we strive, it should not only be verbal, but it should be in an action. No human race is superior or inferior. We all are only a human race, but we all drive with the sole purpose rather than the human body purpose. That's
Absolutely.
something which one has to realize. And when you are a leader, I think that's your duty and your responsibility. That's the first prime responsibility, to spread the message of humanity while dealing with people, because one of the major sources on the earth, nature, yes, but human itself is one of the major sources. Let's not forget that.
No, we absolutely, we are 100% connected. It doesn't matter whether we're male or female, we're from another culture or country, we're separated by oceans, we are still connected. And the modern society has made it even closer of a connection, because we're online together. Look, Curtis and I are 300 miles apart. We're, in the greater Toronto horseshoe area. So we're close together. I think, Scott, you're in the East Coast, right? Or the West Coast. You're in Pacific time.
I'm in Denver, Colorado.
Okay, so you're in Mountain Time. So you're an hour behind us. Got you. Or 2 hours behind us. And then Suchita, she's in Saudi Arabia time, so she's 5 hours ahead of us. So we are connected here today across the globe, right? So we are so close together, even though we have our individualities, we have our similarities, and so that's what unites us all. And I think what a great thing for people to learn is that, and I always say, look, I am culturally diverse. I have not traveled the world a lot. I've been to South America a few times now, but I have not traveled the world a lot. But I live in Toronto, Ontario, and I believe I'm exposed to so many cultures and got used to so many cultures and respecting each other, because I live in this culturally diverse community. So I grew up with an attitude of respect for individuality and learning about different cultures, their differences, but not in the fact that, well, you're different than me, so who are you to me? It's, I want to learn about you. I want to learn what makes you and your culture and your upbringing has taught you. And that's why I think this podcast is so valuable. So I'm not going to keep you guys here. You're welcome to stay. but I want to get into some deeper. We have 3 more people to talk about, even though they're not here with us. I want to talk about their interviews and promote them because and I've still got 5 more interviews ready to produce and more coming along all the time. I think this podcast, Learning from Leaders, has some true value, and I can't wait to share it with people. So, Scott and Suchita, thank you for joining us today.
Well, again, RJ, Curtis, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for having me, RJ and
Good.
Curtis. It was really a
Awesome.
pleasure to meet all of
And
you.
Suchita,
And Mr. Scott, I'm so indeed grateful to see you and meet you here in person.
Well,
Look forward to
Good
have
to
more
meet you guys too.
conversations ahead.
yes, my pleasure,
yes,
Suchita.
in our email that I sent to you guys, I also sent you the opportunity to join our community, the Beacon Fellowship School. I
Absolutely.
hope you join us there. Again, start to add value there and hopefully receive some value. I think the value in the conversations, especially like we are having today, that's what I really want to keep going. Get to know each other. Scott, you talk about collaboration, right? Let's get to know each other. Let's be of service to each other so we can start changing the world because we each have similarities and we each have ways and perspectives
Yep.
to add contribution.
Absolutely.
And I would also like to add one more thing here, as we
Yes,
had spoken during the time of interview, the journal that I have published on a self love, I would share the link of that for the free giveaway to the, as a part of the program.
yes, I did not get that from you, so I did not post
I
it in
will
the
get
show
it done
notes.
from the publisher and share it with you.
Sure, as soon as you got it, I will add it to those show notes so people can get access to that. No problem.
Sure.
And Scott, do I have access to your book?
Not
Can I
yet.
put it in
Not
the-
yet. The current one. I mean, I have 11 books out there, but the current one, What's Really Going On, Apocalypse or Evolution, I'll probably have out within a month or 2.
Okay, perfect. Glad to hear it. And we will, again, I will add these to show notes as soon as you guys make them available. I believe in promoting people. And it's not always about affiliates. You know what I mean? You guys have added value just by giving the interviews. So I'm more than happy to promote you and what you've got going on and help share that out there for people.
Well, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Awesome, guys. Nice to meet you guys.
Thank
Nice
you.
to meet you, Curtis.
Nice to
Thanks.
meet every one of you.
And Curtis, like I said, we got 3 more podcast episodes that we have to talk about before we end
Yep.
today. But
Yep,
the
sure.
first thing I wanted to do is maybe talk to people a little bit more about our mission, vision, and values that we have, why we put this together, how we think that people will benefit from being a member of the Beacon Fellowship, right? I think that's truly powerful. And so our mission is to build Canada's most collaborative leadership community where individuals help one another become better leaders while creating greater impact in their business, family, and community. I think we started something really well there. I apologize that I am outdoors, so unfortunately we're getting background noise. But yeah, I think we put something very valuable together here, and I can't wait for people to start benefiting from it. What's your take on that, Curtis?
Yeah, we built the school group out pretty nicely. There's some stuff in the classroom that is free, and we're starting to get some paid stuff together. And we built some courses out, right, RJ? That's pretty cool.
Yep.
I enjoy. I think the podcast that you have, the few interviews, keep on doing that. I think it's going to be really awesome for people to know about it.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, just get people to the school group, get them to join there. If you guys have other friends and family that want to join us, I'd be happy to know about the leadership school.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely. The more people we have, the more we can be of value to each other, right?
Yep.
And like you mentioned, we have lots of free content available. So we have something called leadership lessons, right?
Yep.
Just basic things about building character, responsibility, and so many others. Just on different some leadership skills, some leadership behaviors, leadership characteristics, those things we put in there for people. And those are the basics, right? You want to start becoming a better leader. That's some of the basics. We're also looking at launching a course. We've got our book, of course, Become the Leader You've Always Wanted to Be.
Yep. Yep.
And
That's a
then
free opt-in.
mentioned-
Yep.
Yeah, and then we're going to start offering the monthly networking sessions. We have a master class that we're working on that's only for members, so they have to join the school group to get involved in the master class on leadership. So we've got some amazing things already just for free. And it is a free community as well, right? So
Yep.
joining for
Yep.
free
Start off.
and
Yep.
then getting value for free. And of course, yes, we are working on some paid opportunities to help keep this business going. After all, it is a business.
Yep.
So we have some paid opportunities we're working on, but have not um, opened them up to the public as of yet, right? So
Mhm.
that's coming down the pipe. We wanted to get this podcast out to the people first. I think that's how
Yep.
we're going to bring value and get people into the network.
Absolutely. One of the cool things I really do like is the free personality test. That's pretty cool. I don't know if anybody else on here has tried that before. It's 16
Yeah, this
personality tests that we've done. I don't know if anybody else has done it. It's
that's
actually pretty cool. Get to know yourself and become a better leader, right, RJ?
yeah. Have either of you opened up, or considered doing a personality test to understand yourself a little bit better?
I have taken those in the past and they have been valuable. So I think I have not looked at your specific one, but that would be intriguing.
Mhm. It's you know what, it's not ours, it's a resource. We just share the link and
Yeah.
they can go to this website to take the personnel. But we thought, what a valuable tool for a person who's just getting started, or they don't understand themselves well enough. Here's a way for them to get in touch with themselves first before they try to change who they are and what direction they might take.
Right. Right. Excellent.
So, oh god, Suchita, did you have something
Sorry.
to add? I thought you were trying to add something in there.
Well, in personality tests, I have done uh, where it's been on a timely basis that we I keep on doing it with one of my mentor whom I have taken a lot of other learnings and teachings from them. So I keep on timely basis doing, but I don't know what specific you would be having in that. That would be
Mhm.
also great to know and explore myself in a different direction though.
I will say I took it probably 5 months ago, something like that, 5 or 6 months ago. But here's the thing, and I like what you just said, is that you periodically take in them, right? It's good
Yep,
to go in and do it again. So I might go back in and do it again myself to see if anything's changed. Because again, we grow all the time, right? So I think I'm going to go
absolutely.
back in and do it again to see how it comes out this time. I know, um, I think I know your IQ doesn't change much, but I think our emotional intelligence changes all the time. So the person we are can change all the time. I'm looking forward. I think I'm going to go do that. So thank you for that.
Are you ready to step into your full leadership potential? To grow as a leader who inspires, empowers, and makes an impact? Welcome to the Beacon Fellows School of Leadership, a place where emerging leaders, coaches, and changemakers come together to master the skills, mindset, and strategies to lead with purpose. Through our immersive programs, you'll gain proven frameworks for building influence and authority, hands-on leadership development tools and workbooks, personalized guidance from experienced facilitators, a community of like-minded leaders committed to growth. Whether you're looking to lead a team, launch a movement, or simply grow in confidence and clarity, the Beacon Fellows School equips you with the skills, strategies, and support to shine as a leader in any arena. Join us today and start your journey to becoming a leader who leaves a lasting impact. Visit www.beaconfellows.com to learn more and secure your place at the Beacon Fellows School of Leadership. Your next step as a leader starts now.
It's just happened last week. The one of my mentor, she and I were having a conversation over the call. And she's like, "You said no to somebody." I said, "Yeah, I did." She's like, "Are you sure?" I said, 100%. She's like, "You're not a person who says no to anybody." I said, You're right. I never say no to anybody, but I learned to say no. Now that's a shift, where
Yes,
to draw your boundary by saying no as well. Now that's a shift.
yes, and
Though
I
the
think you and I
person is
discussed
not
that.
somebody who's like my family or anybody, but it was a client. But when I make my client work individually, independently, and they still want to cling on to you for support all the time when you are working on making the person independent. So I had to say no in a hard way, but that helped her. Not me, but that helped her. So that's what
Yes.
I did.
Yep, we all grow, and I think you and I had this conversation at some point that it's okay to say no. One of my bosses taught me that a long time ago. No is a very acceptable answer, and sometimes that's a hard one for people to embrace, especially for people who just want to help others. Right? That no word, it feels so final. It feels so like we're closing a door. But like you said, that no helps somebody grow to a next stage. So you were actually serving them by telling them no. I love that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So next we talk about our vision, where we want to open up a world where leadership is shared rather than guarded, right? Scott, we talked about this. Collaboration replaces competition, and ordinarily people become extraordinary leaders by serving others. I think that's a core of everything we're trying to put together, right, Curtis?
That's right, RJ, for sure. We did a course on that too, did we not? About
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. Yep, that's part of our. That was our five. What was it? Five. I don't remember, but we do have another course in there for free in the school group. But it's five practices of leadership, and I can't remember
Yep.
the exact name of the course right offhand at the moment.
It's on the
We've done
five P's.
such.
Not the five
That's
P
not our
course,
five
right?
P.
No.
That's not our 5P course because that's going to be our signature program. So
Yep.
about authority building. But no, I can't remember the
Yes.
five. Maybe if you can look it up, I'd love to hear what that
Okay.
course is. If you're on
Yeah, give me
school
a
at all.
second. Yep. I'll find it.
Yeah, we'll get into that. So, but that's our core. That's our vision that we're putting together, and then we have our core values, which I'll get into in a few minutes. But next, I'll move on. I wanted to talk about my interview with Tess Fialka. She's written a book, and that's how she got to get connected with me. Well, she was excited to promote her upcoming book. She's a person who came from leadership. Um, with 30 years experience in leadership, and then she wanted to help people transition into corporate leadership and help them um, modernize, so to speak, the leadership role. And we talked about some of the hard conversations that we have to have with people, to make them better performers, to help them adapt to their leadership role. And look, I've had interviews with people, and I really can't do justice the things we talked about, right? I have my notes that I'm working from. And while I have the notes here, it really doesn't do justice about the experience that this person shares in our podcast because they're passionate about it, right? Tess was really passionate about developing leaders in a corporate environment, right? And helping people transition from a manager to a leader. And like I said, I can talk about it. I remember some of our conversation, but at the same time, it doesn't do it justice. So this is why I say I'm excited to promote these interviews, and we've only got 5 interviews that we're sharing live today, and I will be promoting out those links to our community, to our social media, to our Facebook group. I hope our guests will promote out to their audience because these interviews are tremendously valuable, and I can't wait for people to be exposed to them. So Tess Vielka, her book was, I know I have that written down somewhere. Funny enough, that didn't come out in the show notes. But yeah, she is promoting her book, like I said. Oh, Walking the Leadership Edge. So yeah, it's really about some of the experiences you have to have as developing as a leader. So
Well, RJ,
Curtis,
yeah, the
find
five
that
power moves. Yeah,
the
five power
five
moves.
power moves. That's it.
Yeah.
Yes, that's it. Very good. And really, it is about setting yourself up as an authority. And of course, service was one of those key factors that make you a better leader and position you to develop your authority. So, and then some of the core values that we have within this community, of course, we value leadership. And we've said on this many times, Curtis, in fact, it's in our book that everyone can become a leader, right? They're not born, they're made, right? And I always say this, look, even the princes who were born for leadership, you knew they were going to be leaders one day. they had to be trained. They had to be taught to be a leader, right? So what is your thoughts on that?
Well, I know most of the princes went through military training, so much like Scott, you probably know all about that, right, Scott? Military training stuff. It's pretty brutal. I did reserves before when I was younger. QL2, QL3 in Canada is tough, but it does change you. It makes you a different person. It makes you more of a better person. I know that for sure. Because you push through hard times and makes you better. Because there's a lot of hard things in life you got to push through. And being a leader, that's what you got to do sometimes, right? Got to push
Yes.
through those difficulties and see what's on the other side. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. It just depends on the direction that you're going, right?
Leadership is definitely about learning. We're not all, even if we're suited for it or being prepared for it, I think it's an experiential thing. Only
Oh yeah,
by,
for sure.
doing something, maybe getting it wrong. Yes, we can learn from others, but by getting it wrong, I think that's where we learn to get it right.
Yeah, failure's a teacher, right?
Yep.
It's a-
Yep. Scott, you mentioned the military. So what are your thoughts on that? What do you have to add there? I'm sure
One
there's
of the
something.
things, and often when folks think about the military, they often think about command and control, directing and controlling things. And in fact, and like Curtis said, it is a iterative process of learning and growth. When I talk to people about leadership, I say leadership is really inspiring people to become the best version of themselves. So whether that's service or expanding their perspective or whatever it is, or challenging them, like Suchita said about saying no, making them take it on themselves, it is helping to make them a better version of themselves. That's ultimately what leadership is about, inspiring them to become the best version of themselves.
Sometimes
Absolutely.
you have to be tough, even as a leader.
That's
You
absolutely true.
always cannot be soft.
Yes, yes.
And that was definitely in my interview with Tess because she had a client who was on the verge of being fired, right? They had like they just weren't getting it. They just weren't pulling the like they found themselves in the process of leading a team. They were a great employee. They did a great job, and all of a sudden, because they were promoted to a team leader, they didn't know how to lead a team per se. So they had to have some tough conversations with this person in order for them to become the leader they needed to be. And I think, look, leadership is a responsibility, and we're not all suited for it. So I know one of my managers once upon a time, they were asked to leave the role. Okay, you can go back to your original job. You were great at it, but I don't think you're suited for leadership. And sometimes being a leader, you have to have that conversation with somebody at some point.
And being the leader, one thing is very important when you deal with your staff, you know, um, when they are employees in specific. So what happens is that, especially when you're in a marketing and sales, you have to be very, very specific to motivate them to get their targets done. The word of demotivation or the word of shitty criticism can fall them, yes, but sometimes the harsh word, you also have to use them so that they know that you cannot be fooled. Because if you always be soft, what happens is you're taken for granted too. So yes, all positives do work, but the math says positive negative makes negative, but when two negative comes together, it makes positive.
In many cases, absolutely. Look, we can be
Yes.
supportive even though we have to be harsh or critical with somebody, right? I think it's all in the way we come across. There are times, and look, I have had some difficult conversations where my managers knew they needed to be tough and strict with me, right? Like I said, I wasn't always a person who is somewhat enlightened. I was somewhat bullheaded and restrictive in my thinking. And there came a time when my managers had to get really tough with me so that I could open my eyes and truly see what was going on. And I think sometimes we have to have that. And there's nothing wrong with doing that because look, it helped me step into leadership, right? So these are things that really do, as much as it might be hard for people to do, if you are a leader, you're going to have to do it at some point, I think. And I think you need to be prepared for that. That at some point you're going to have a harsh, critical conversation. And yes, you can be supportive, but I think these conversations do have to happen in leadership roles. And so some of the other values we have in our community, and we've kind of talked about them, right? We've mentioned service. I think leaders lift others, and that's really why we get into a leadership role in the first place. We talked about growth, how leadership, learning, development never stops. We continue to grow. Scott was sure to talk about collaboration, and through that contribution as well. So these are some of the values. Integrity, I think, is a major part of who you are. I'd like to believe that you guys here with us today, you're the same person under all circumstances, right? You're caring, you're supportive, you're direct when you need to be, but these are all part of the building trust among your people. And then, of course, one thing I think is very important is courage. I think we need to be in a position where it begins outside your comfort level. It begins with taking that next step, and it takes courage to do that. Those are the values that we think this represents in our community.
Absolutely, absolutely. There's one more thing, which which I grew up, and rather I developed myself with one saying which has always been with me, that you will be bad in somebody's story. You cannot be good in everybody's story. So leaders have to face that, no matter what.
And on that subject, like we like to keep our circle, right? We don't like to push people away, but they say you're going to become the sum of the five people you hang around. And so you have to be careful who you let into that circle. And that means maybe, just maybe, you have to eliminate some people from your circle. And I think, yes, it's tough. Yes, it's sometimes sad because you've been around this person for years, but are they being supportive? Are they being harsh? Are they being critical? Are they unwilling to grow and develop and in that sense help you grow and develop, right? These are the people we want to consider whether they should be part of our circle or not.
True.
And sometimes you just have to invite people to look for other opportunities. That is what you are doing is not necessarily in their best interests or in their skill set or whatever their motivation. And so you have to point them in a direction of finding a new opportunity because, like you said, you want to surround yourself with people that you can advance and that can advance you as well.
I like that term. Do you invite them to find a new opportunity? Because that's exactly what Suchita was saying. But there's a delicate but rigid way of putting that, right? This isn't working out. So love that. So another interview I had was Lori McDowell. She's in my circle, and she is and hosting events is part of my journey. I want to we're hosting the podcast. We're moving people into being a part of our summit that we're putting on. Then I want to invite people into a 1-day or a 3-day event, a conference. Then I want to be able to invite people into retreats. And that was Lori's expertise, is teaching people how to host quality events. And now, Curtis, we've hosted events before. We've hosted online summits. Maybe talk about your aspect or your perspective of when we hosted those events.
Yeah, it was a couple years ago. When I was the technical work to do, obviously, to get those coordinated and meeting people and trying to get missions on time. A lot of people we met were amazing, actually. They were really good at what they did. They're experts in their fields. I found we learned stuff during that period. Some of them actually collaborated with stuff. We worked with them. We did other things with them. And it was prosperous for us, I believe. Yeah. I was really excited to do those because it's like a learning experience. I've never done a launch before of that magnitude, honestly. It's like, holy crap. So it was kind of fun in that manner, but huge learning experience. And it kind of put me outside my usual comfort zone of doing stuff. So not just technically, but actually trying to speak to people and actually talk to them is sometimes was at that period of my time was very difficult, I found. And so
it was quite the experience to put on all the logistics that went into it, and trying to make sure people showed up. And at one point, our guest was like 10 or 15 minutes late. And so all of those.
Filling the time, yeah.
You know what I took away from that, Curtis, though,
What was
and
that?
and we talked about this afterwards, is look, we're trying to rebuild something here, right? So what I learned was momentum.
Mhm.
All of that work that went into that. We did a great job. It was a great show. We had some value that we
Was
added
that
to
2 days
people,
though, right? It was 2 days?
but it was a 2 day event. Yeah, summits over 2 days. And at the end of it, what did I do? I went,
Take a
oh,
break.
now I can relax. And I took a break, right?
Not a bad
That
idea.
break pretty much killed us because look, we stopped the train at the station, and then trying to get that train moving again was really
It's hard,
something.
very
So
hard.
momentum. Once you build something like this, and that's why my goal is for the people who've been on our podcast to get them into our summit, to get them into a giveaway, so that that's the next step, and that's the evolution. I am not stopping after this, this
Yeah.
round, because I think we have some great value to add to people, and it's about keeping that momentum going, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Keep the
that's
train
so.
rolling.
Yeah. And so Lori, that's one of the things she talked about is and in not doing it all yourself. First of all, working with an event planner so that somebody else is better suited to do all the logistics and call all the people and send all the emails. And then there's preparation for your space, right? Even if it's online, there's your web, your website, your email marketing, um your online event, and the logistics behind that. And again, like I said, having those people show up, like there are people better suited for that. So there were plenty of challenges, and Lori and I talked about all that. So and a lot of times for me, I'm doing this as a career transition, right? The idea is this is who I want to be moving forward. Yes, so I'm a training coordinator by profession right now, but that also works well in that I'm teaching people about leadership here online. So it's a good transition for me, but I want to take that to the event space, and I want to be talking to people from the stage. I want to own the stage and the classroom. That's who I am. That's where I'm going. And so this is all about the momentum and building that and keeping that going so that I'm the teacher. If I just find those people who can do the work, then I know I can put on quality events. I'd like to think I've done a great job here today with just the two of you. I was hoping we'd have more, but we'd had a great conversation going on back and forth between the four of us. So thank you guys very much for showing up today. So I have one more podcast I want to introduce, but again, I always like to open it up for your thoughts. Do you guys have any thoughts to add on what we've taken in so far?
Well, I think the event space growing into that, more and more people, this idea of the leadership umbrella that you're talking about and connection, and that brings it all together in through these events. And I think you're exactly right, RJ, this momentum. Once you get some momentum, you just got to keep it going. You can't stop the train.
Mm-hmm.
It has to just start with emotion. It's like the physics law, From inertia, you are going to start, and then it keeps on moving. The speed keeps on taking one after the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and how many have watched a movie where you see the train taking off from the station, right? That first initial kick from the wheels, they don't have a lot of friction. They don't have a lot of traction, so the wheel skips. The wheel skips until you can kind of get some motion, and now it's smoother. Now it's starting to go the right way, and now we can get up to that 80, 100 kilometers an hour and keep going forward, right? So I think that's totally what it's all about right there. And so once you guys start, like Suchita said, it's all about that initial motion. Once you guys start, do not stop. I will say that's a lesson I learned the hard way.
We all do
And
learn the
so,
same way.
yeah,
That's right. That's right.
absolutely. No doubt.
We all
Listen,
learn in
and
the
that's what we're
same
talking about
manner.
here, right? That's what we're talking about here, is that we can learn lessons from others. And I believe in sharing the lessons learned that you guys have experienced, right? Because maybe somebody picks a nugget or two out of this. But really, going out there and applying it is something completely different. Scott said, if I do this, this is what's going to happen. No, Scott said, I did this, and this is what happened with me. It won't be
True.
the same to happen with you. You get to experience it and go, oh, it didn't quite work this way. What can I do differently the next time?
Correct.
So the
See, when
last
you're
podcast.
climbing the ladder as a leader, when you're
Mhm.
climbing a ladder as a leader, right from your initial stage, because we all start first as an employee, and then you climb the ladder to go ahead. But while you are climbing the ladder, there are lot many hurdles and the blockages that comes in your way. But if you overcome those blockages instead of taking it as a negative part, then you will never sit in a victim zone. But if one sits in the zone of a victim, you can never rise.
Completely. Completely.
So you have to
Hopefully,
overcome that, terminology that the moment I take one step ahead and four step, if somebody pushes me back, nobody pushes you back. It is you, your own energy, who has to thrive to move forward.
regardless of the restrictions, right? Regardless of the
Absolutely.
pressure, you still
Absolutely.
need to keep moving forward. Absolutely. I love it. And so for our last promotional podcast on this initial launch was Nilesh Jain, and he is a podcaster himself who has learned from all of the people out there. One of the things he learned from Russell Brunson, of course. We know Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels, and that was the thing he took away, and he built his podcast based on learning the one funnel away program from Russell Brunson. And one of the conversations he said, and this is exactly why I put this podcast together, is that he says, how many times I thought about quitting, thought about giving it up. He says, but you know what kept me going is that even if I don't reach people out there, he says, every time I have an interview, I learn something. I learn something from my guests. And thank you, Scott, Suchita, Lori, Tess, Nilesh, and so many of the others who I will introduce you to over time, is that you guys all share value with me, and through me, you share value with the people out there, right? And I think that's what I have, is that connection between me, the lessons I've learned, the connection and the lessons you've learned, and then sharing that with other people. I take, listen, if I get one or two nuggets off of you and I can share those one or two nuggets or expand on those and help people pick that up, I think what a tremendous goal and what a tremendous opportunity to help people out there. So, like I said, those are 5 people we've been able to present to you today. We have 5 more sitting in the wings that Curtis, by the way, I didn't ask you, but I'm going to invite you to have a summary podcast with me on Sunday morning, and we'll launch it out by Monday, which, by the way, every Monday evening, we're going to launch a new podcast episode, whether it be a different interview guest or whether it be you and I just summarizing the conversations we've heard from people out there. So I'm inviting you Sunday morning to maybe after our podcast on the Parent Support Circle, we can continue and do a summary episode for the Beacon of Leadership and the Beacon Fellowship and learning from leaders. So
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. YouTube or what?
so we're gonna, sorry?
Do it on YouTube.
No, well, it'll be on YouTube on our channel. That just like these people are all launched on our channel. But we'll do it recorded. We'll do it recorded and then post it out there because that allows me to add the intro and all the ads and stuff in there. Because by the way, there is ads in our podcast as well. There's one ad inviting people into our community, and then there's another ad out there where we believe, Curtis, you are what we call a 10-10-10 author.
Yes, I am.
That's where you wrote your book with this 10-10-10 program. And we believe it's a big part of becoming an authority. We talked about Suchita's got a journal coming out.
Oh, nice.
Scott has his book and many other books. I think writing a book, and Kurt, we've got a couple books ourselves.
Yeah.
Writing a book is a big part of demonstrating your authority, right?
Your message matters. Your expertise has value. Learn how to share it with the world and become the authority people are looking for. Don't miss this special live training with best-selling author Raymond Aaron, who has authored or co-authored 147 books, and he's discovered one powerful strategy that has opened more doors, created more opportunities, and generated tremendous wealth for his clients. In this free webinar, you'll learn how to build your brand, position yourself as the go-to authority in your market, attract more clients, and dramatically increase your income through the power of authorship. Don't wait. Visit www.beaconfellows.com/101010 or click the link in the show notes.
Maybe talk about your experience with this 10-10-10 program.
Well, it took me 10 weeks to write a book, so I can't complain about that. I did actually wake up an hour earlier every day. I was working 10 hours a day, so I got up at 3 a.m. Try my book for at least an hour, hour and a half. Then I would do my morning routine to get ready for work. I worked till about probably 7 or 8 o'clock at night, and then go to bed and wake up at 3 just to get that book done. It was like quite a commitment for myself. I really pushed it to make that work. Yeah, there was a few hiccups along the way, obviously, but that's how it goes, right? Some days like I'm too tired to do this, especially on a Saturday or Sunday morning, right? It's like I'm not doing it today. So, but yeah, sometimes you need to sleep, and sometimes you got to do that work to push through the pain and suffering, right? Yeah, with Raymond Aaron, the course was super easy. You watch each different video, and it went through really easy. They're not hard. Some of the tips I found, if you actually speak your words and talk about it, it is faster. It's a little bit easier. The concepts get across, and then go back through later and then refine it, right? Also, I did a lot of research for my book. I didn't really realize I was involved into a book to make it good. So that was interesting because I never thought about researching. It's not my thing in school for sure. I just think, oh, it's like this. Okay, I just reiterate it and I got passed, right? So when we actually commit to something, it means more than just like getting by, right? So for me, it's a commitment. You know, I've sold a few books here and there, but it was fun.
So some of the other things.
Yep.
Yep. Your book is called ABCs to a Positive Life, right? And so you've written a little bit of a subject on every one of the 26 letters of the alphabet.
Not
Something
quite.
positive. No, there wasn't 26.
No, it's only 10 chapters. It's just some of the stuff I learned along the way during the pregnancy period, because I had a tough time, right? It's very difficult, you know, your kid's being mature, you're trying to work 10, 14 hours a day, trying to fit everything in, right? So with that experience, I was trying to figure out different ways to be positive, and through meditation, some like affirmations, and listening to certain podcasts and stuff, and listening to certain people and what they did and what I learned from it. So the biggest factor for me was doing Achieve Today was the biggest factor that helped me write that book, I think. Because it really changed my life. It had a lot of different aspects with coaching and stuff that really changed my mindset, and it still works for me today. And a lot of things don't bother me as much as I thought they would. Right? Yeah. So if someone cutting you off in traffic, no problem. Don't get angry about it. So I find the excuse that, hey, maybe they're in a hurry, maybe this or maybe that. So you're not getting angry at that person or what they're doing to you. You're figuring out, hey, maybe there's something they need to do more important than just to get in my way, right? So
Yep.
That's good.
Truthfully, that one's a hard one too. I think it's a lot of us.
Like a lot of the big city with lots of traffic is very difficult. For sure.
Yes. You know, living in an outskirts and then having to drive down into the city, I think could frustrate just about anybody. So trying to
I
find
think
ways
that's
to
the
remain
same
calm.
case in Dubai as well.
Yeah, Dubai's pretty busy, man. It's a pretty busy place for sure.
It's a pretty
I've
busy
heard.
place.
So I don't know if you drive. Like, do you drive into the main city or do you live in the main city? Or
No, in the peak hours when you start, it is really terrible. Every road you will find a traffic.
It's packed.
so there's something everybody has to deal with. I don't care where you live, right?
Absolutely.
So Curtis, two of the things I take away from that is, one, you speak your book. So it doesn't matter whether you have writing skills or maybe you have spelling issues or something like that. By speaking it, you have a dictator who writes it down for you. So that I think takes away. And I'm not a good writer, but you can speak, right? So you can put this book together. And then it only took you 10 weeks.
Write about it.
Yep. And so it only took you 10 weeks. And then Raymond Aaron becomes your publisher as well.
Yes. So I had to do the editing process. That was very difficult. That was a lot of work. You think it's right, but it's not. And you send it in and out, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You think you got a book published in 10 weeks? No. It's actually a bit longer, but to write the book only took 10 weeks. The rest of it took a bit longer. Publishing process was actually cheaper than I thought to publish the book, to pay for the books. It was good. And then they have, with Raymond Aaron, they actually do a book signing thing. So you go to one of his events and you sit there and people talk about your book and you sign your book to people. And of course, you meet other authors, get their books signed over, and do a little bartering, right?
Yep.
Meet people that way.
So I believe it's a valuable program, and that's why we put it in each of our podcasts. So we do got to kind of wrap it up. It's been a great conversation, folks. I appreciate you for showing up wherever you are, especially Suchita. I appreciate that, waking up early to join us in this space at this time. That's some dedication. So thank you very much, Suchita.
You're welcome. Well, I need to add something here is that
Yep.
currently I'm working on another book and it's a project where the theme is on ego.
Yep.
Okay. So
Very
I have designed, I have designed the book with 30 chapters, and my first chapter's title is Acceptance.
Yep.
It's
And
a, believe it or not, in my book, that's the very first chapter. Well, the first step in my 10-step process is acceptance. So I
okay,
understand that.
but my research took me to a depth of three different sciences, which is one is physiological, second is philosophical, and third is psychological. So, three P's,
Yep.
sciences which I have gone depth into. And it gives me one insight is that the word called ego is very fragile in its own nature. And we tend to misunderstand that with the self respect. And you don't know when do you cross that border of self respect and ego, because it's a very fragile border. And we term the term as ego into a very negative or the low vibrational energy. But technically, if you really look at it is a very thin line of being a useful energy and a disastrous energy, because when you cross with the arrogance attitude with other elements, it takes you to the disaster of your own self. But if you take with humility, compassion, it can rise your level up. Now, how do you take at an individual level? And as the child is born after the 9 months process,
Yep.
the the child, we say that the toddler or the baby who is born, how is he or she going to have an ego? But even that child has an ego, because in the very first note when they are born, it's very difficult for them to communicate. So their communication language is only the crying or making some sounds, because they don't have the language. But
Yes.
that
Thank you
itself
for coming.
teaches you that they know the tricks of making people turn to their tunes. And that itself is a ego. So that's where we
Yes.
start with the ego in our life. So no
So
individual is
Suchita,
without ego. But how do you
yeah.
navigate that is what makes you
Yeah,
as an
and
ego.
it sounds like it's a conversation that I really want to get in deeper with you. And this is what I was talking about. So my book, by the way, the 10 steps to achieve any outcome you desire. First step is acceptance or awareness. Second step is acceptance, and third step is first step, sorry, was attitude. So there's a lot of similarities there. Scott, you talked about collaboration. There's something, Suchita, that we could probably collaborate on, because I'd love for you to hear my book so that you can talk about some of the things in your book. So, Scott, you talked about collaboration and changing and connecting us together. Just give your final thoughts before we start to end this up.
Well, I think this is another great opportunity for people to come together, share their ideas, and build relationships, because it's all about relationships.
True.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for that. Very much. And thank you guys for joining us. This has been a great conversation. It's a better launch than I was hoping, because I did not get any comments that people were going to be here today. So, as I mentioned, this is our first networking session. We used it as a live launch for our podcast, Learning from Leaders. We do have 5 episodes live out there. We'll be sharing it out on social media, sharing it through our networks. Our guests can share it through their network. So the word is going to spread, and I can't wait for it to evolve into what it's meant to become, the level of service that we have the opportunity to take it to.
Okay, I also
Thank you
need
very
one
much for joining
favor
us
from
today.
you. I also need one favor from you is whichever podcast that you are going to share up, when you share the link, if you can kindly share the Insta handle of each one of them, that helps us to collaborate along with Bacon, with those people, and you your own self.
Thank you very much. That's a good way to connect people. And I think I will do that. And I will try to find the way to best do that, so that because again, we only have so many characters to work with when we're posting
Absolutely.
these notes. So I will find a way to do that and connect people together. Like I said, we do also invite you to join the Beacon Fellowship School, where we can be more of service to each other.
Yep.
Curtis,
That's
any
great.
final thoughts from you? And we're going to end this up.
Thanks guys for being here today. It's awesome to meet you guys. Thanks, RJ, for those interviews. I think they're going to be great when you're actually out there. It'd be fantastic. For people's links, you actually put those in the school group. So if you want to go to the school group, just put your link for your Instagram, YouTube, whatever you got. Put them in there and say, hey, check me out. It's all good.
Awesome. Thank you very much, folks.
Thanks,
I
guys.
can't wait. Check out our podcast. The value is there. You've heard it from our presenters today. You've heard it from the other 3 conversations that I brought out today. I can't wait for people to enjoy learning from leaders and all of the exciting things to come.
Perfect.
Have a great day.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you and have a great evening, all
Thank
of
you.
you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If it inspired you, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who need to hear it. We invite you to join Beacon Fellowship School of Leadership, a community of your peers learning and growing together. Visit www.beaconfellows.com. Keep growing, keep serving, and keep your light shining bright. Most of all, never stop learning from leaders.